I'm Anil Kumar. Welcome to my series on solutions to EQAO grade 9 test papers. So I picked up previous test papers. While solving them, I'll give you concepts also, and these concepts should help you to do better in your test and understand the topics. Let me thank EQAO for sharing all this information with us and making it public. Now, when you are preparing for EQAO, you need to understand few formulas. So here is a list of few of them which you should understand. Well, calculator is allowed and the formulas are given to you. But still, let's go through these important formulas before taking up questions from the test paper. In this video, I'm actually going to solve all the questions of 2015. Now, the important equations to consider are 1. Equation of line. At least 3 questions will be based on this equation, y equals to mx plus b, where m is the slope of the line and b is the y-intercept. Then Pythagorean theorem, c square equals to a square plus b square. In a right triangle, a and b are the shorter sides and c is the hypotenuse. So sum of squares of these two legs is equal to the square of the third one. For example, here 4 square is 16, 3 square is 9. When you add, you get 25, right? So which is 5 square. Then sum of interior angles of any polygon. Well, as you know, a triangle makes 180 degrees. So triangle is sides, 3 sides. So 3 minus 2 gives you 1 times 180. That is how you could remember the formula. So if I have octagon, 8 sides, n is 8. 8 minus 2 times 180 will give you the sum of interior angles for that polygon. A regular polygon, I should write. Okay. In a regular polygon, all angles will be equal, but the sum is going to be that much. Okay. Then we have some important formulas for area. Area of a trapezoid is sum of the two parallel sides times the height or distance between them divided by 2. For circle, the area is pi r square. In 3D, we'll consider volume of a cylinder which is pi r square h. Pi r square is the area of the base and h is the height. Volume of a cone is 1/3 of the area of a cylinder. For sphere, the volume is 4/3 pi r cube. So these are few formulas to share. Feel free to contact me on the email address given for any questions relating to this particular topic. Now, it is also important that you have to actually fill in the answers in the sheet provided using a pencil, right? So this is very important. But in my case, I'm going to solve these questions one by one, right? So I'm going to solve these questions one by one, but I'm not going to fill up that sheet. I'll provide you with the solution in the space here, and we'll see how to solve these questions and also understand some good concepts related with the given question so that you could actually perform much better in your own test. So let's begin with the very first question here. Question number 1 here is, a rectangle is divided into 5 equal sections as pictured below. Which of the following represents the area of one section, right? That means just one of them, not. So we have to basically divide the whole area by the number of sections, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is all, right? So one section area will be total area, which is 3x times 25x, right? 3x times, let me write in brackets, 25x. And we have to divide this by 5 since we have 5 sections. Does it make sense to you? Correct? So when you multiply, it is better to divide first. So 5 goes 5 times. So 5 times 3 is 15. So we get 15. And x times x is x square. So we get 15x square as our answer, which is option D for us, correct? Is that clear to you? So that is how you're going to solve this question. Now let's look into question number 2. Question number 2 here is, the table below contains 5 expressions, right? These are the 5 expressions. How many of these expressions are equivalent to p to the power of 2 to the power of 3? So let's try to understand what does this mean. So let me write down here. When I say p to the power of 2 to the power of 3, it basically means p to the power of 3 times 2, 6. That's what it means, right? So whenever we have power of power, it gets multiplied. So we get this. In these expressions, what values are given to us? Well, when you multiply p 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, so this one basically is p to the power of 6. Here, 2, 2, 2. When you add them up, you again get p to the power of 6. Here, when you add, you get 5, right? So that is not 6. This is p to the power of 5 already given. This is p to the power of 6. So the question here is, out of these expressions, how many of these expressions are equivalent to? They're same as p to the power of 6. So we got 1, 2, and 3. So option C is the right option. Is that clear to you, right? So that is how we are going to answer this question. So I hope that is absolutely clear. So it kind of summarizes for you the rules of exponents. So when you multiply with one same number, it is the same number base to the power of 6. When you multiply with the same base, the exponents get added up, and that is how you get this formula, right? So it actually reminds you of the laws of exponent, right? So that is laws of exponent. And this is called the power rule, right? So that is how we could do it. Now let's look into question number 3. Question number 3 for us is, a rectangle is shown below with algebraic expressions for its length and width in centimeters. 3x is the length, x plus 5 is the width. Which expression represents the area of the triangle in centimeter squares? So area basically will be what? Area will be 3x times x plus 5. So we just need to multiply this. So it is applying the distributive property. When you multiply with x, 3x, you get this as equal to 3 times x squared. And when you multiply 3x with 5, you get 15x. So equivalent expression is 3x squared plus 15x, which is the D option, right? So the last option here is the correct option. Is that clear to you? So I hope now polynomial multiplication is absolutely clear. Let's move on and take question number 4. Question number 4 is, what is the solution of the equation given below, which is 2 over 3x minus 4 equals to 20. So first step is we can add 4 on both sides, correct? So add 4 on both sides. So we get 2 over 3x equals to 20 plus 4, which is 24. Now, to get the value of x, we'll multiply by 3 over 2. So we can do 24 times 3 over 2, right? We can say cross multiply. Now let's simplify this also. Calculator is allowed, so you could do it with calculator also, right? So half of 24 is 12, and 12 times 3 is 36. So we get option D as the right option. Perfect. Now question number 5 is a word problem for us. It says, Mia sells t-shirts from a booth at a market. She pays $30 to rent the booth. Each t-shirt costs her $1.50 and she sells them for $7.50 each. Her goal is to make $200 after she pays for the booth and the t-shirts. What is the minimum number of t-shirts Mia must sell to reach her goal, right? So let's talk about the cost and the revenue, right? So let's say what is the cost here and what is the revenue. The cost is she pays $30 to the booth. So that is a fixed cost. 30, right? And then each t-shirt costs her $1.50. So plus $1.50 for each t-shirt. Let's call that number as N. So that becomes the cost, right? The revenue here is $7.50 for each shirt, right? So we get $7.50 times N. That is the money received. Now her goal is to make a profit of 200 after she sells. So this take away that should be 200. So that is how you get your equation. So let me rewrite this equation as $7.50 times N minus $1.50 times N minus the cost of 30 should give profit of 200. This is what she wants. Is that clear to you? So taking away 150 from 750 gives us 6, right? 6.00. And we'll take, let's do it in 3 steps, okay? Is 200, correct? So now we can take 30 on the right side. So we get 6N equals to 200 plus 30, which is 230, right? So what is N now equals to? N will be equal to 230 divided by 6. Okay? 6 times 4 is 24, so less than that. 6 times 3 is 18. And 50, 6 times 8 is 48 point something, right? That means she has to sell more than that, right? A round number, 39 is your answer. Is that clear, right? 6 times 8 is 48 and then again 2, so 0.3. But you cannot sell 1/3 of a shirt, so the number has to be rounded higher. So N has to be 39. Is that clear to you, right? So that is one way of doing it. Now let's look into question number 6, which is again a word problem. It says, Joanne drives for 2.5 hours at a constant speed and travels 250 kilometers. Francis drives at a constant speed exactly 10 kilometers per hour less than Joanne's speed. Okay, so let's figure out the speed here. Now speed is distance over time, right? So for any problems related to distance, speed and time, we'll always consider this particular triangle to remember the formula, right? So the formula is that distance is speed into time. When we want to find speed, we can say speed S is equals to distance divided by time, right? So speed is distance divided by time. So in this case, it is 250 divided by 2.5, and that gives you 100, correct? You can use the decimal values to figure it out. Use calculator otherwise. Now, for Frank's, the speed is 10 kilometers per hour less. That means the speed is 90 kilometers per hour. Is that clear to you? Right. Now the question is, which point on the graph below could represent the distance traveled and time spent traveling for Frank? Okay. So 90 kilometers per hour, we have to figure out which is the right point. So we know the speed now for us is equal to 90 kilometers per hour. We are given time and distance. So distance should be equal to what? Let me write here. Distance, let me move this a bit so that you can clearly see the work, right? So here we are. We are given a couple of options which we'll look into after solving. So distance is what? So distance is speed into time, right? Speed into time. So 90 times the time should give you the distance. If I multiply by 2, then what do I get? Let's do 90 times 2, we get 180. However, this is 200, not correct. Times 4 is 360, right? So at 4, this is 3. I missed 3 here. So 3 times 90 is 270. Well, this is 350, so it is not quite right. In this case, it is 5. So this is to 5 times 90, which gives us 450. Well, that is correct. This is 450. So this point seems to be correct. So Y is the correct point. Y is our answer. Is that clear to you? Right? So let's try to understand this question once again. It's slightly tricky. Now what we are given here is speed of one person, which is 100 kilometers per hour. The other person is driving at 10 kilometers per hour less. That means the speed is 90 kilometers per hour. Now in the graph, we have to see at different times using 90 how much distance can be covered. And we found that when time is 5, then 5 times 90 is 450. So that matches, right? So 90 times 5 is 450, which is the correct point on this particular graph. And so option B is the right option. Is that clear to you? Question number 7. Which of the following shows information from a linear relation between C and N? So we are given some values for N and C. So we need to figure out which one of these is linear. So for linear, what are we trying to say? For any linear relation, it has to be a straight line. That means if we are considering 3 points, there are 3 points given here. Slope has to be same, right? So we want same slope. And what is slope? Let me say M is my slope. We find slope M as y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we have to compare these values. Now in our case, y values are the c values and the x values are the n values. So we can write this as c2 minus c1 over n2 minus n1 will give us the slope. Is that clear to you? Right? So that is how we are going to find the slope. Now let's figure out the slope for the first one. So here n is going up by 1 and this is going up by 1 and here it goes by 2. So it's a different slope, right? So that is not linear. Perfect. Let's do the second one. C is going up by 2 and then again by 2. However, the n value is going up by 2 and also by 2, right? So in this case, m is 2 over 2, which is 1 for both the cases. So this is the correct option, right? So this is linear. Do you see that? So we can find both the slopes and both are same. And therefore, it is linear and that's how we are going to answer it. Clear? Now, let's move on to question number 8. Question number 8 is, the total cost of yearbook for a school is made up of $375 setup fee and $25 for each yearbook purchased. There is a linear relationship between the total cost and the number of yearbooks purchased. What type of variation is this relation and what is the initial value? Okay. Now, let's try to understand the equation. The total cost of the yearbook for a school is made up of, this is a fixed cost, right? So total cost C is basically equals to fixed cost of $375 plus $25 for each yearbook purchased. Let's say plus 25n, number of yearbooks. Is that okay? Now this clearly is partial variation, right? So it's a partial variation. Since there is a fixed cost involved, and it says what type of variation is a partial variation, and what is the initial cost? Initial means when n equals to 0, then C equals to 375. So that is the initial cost. Therefore, option C is the right option. Is that clear to you? Perfect. So that gives you concept of application with linear equations. I hope you're finding it interesting. So let's move on and take question number 9 now. Question number 9. A company ships CDs in crates of equal size. The graph below shows the relationship between the total mass of a crate and the number of CDs it contains. Which of the following equations represents the relationship between the total mass of the crate M and the number of CDs it contains N, right? So that's what we need to figure out. Now we can get this information from the given graph. Let's try to analyze this graph, right? So it's kind of going like this. So we could expect this point to be 100 when there are no CDs. Do you see that? So you're looking into this pattern. So from here, we can go left 2 and 1 down, left 2 and 1 down. So we come to 0. So that helps us to get the equation. Initial value for us is 100, right? So we get an equation which is 100 plus. Now cost of each CD is rate of change. So when I'm adding, 100 is the number of CDs, the mass added is 25, right? This is 125. Is that clear? So 125 is the mass added, right? When we are adding 100 CDs. So we can find the rate, or M in this case. Let me write down here. In this case, M will be equal to the change in Y value is 125 minus 100, right? 125 minus 100 over change in the X value 100 minus 0. So that gives you 25 over 100, which is 0.25. Is that clear? Correct? So that is one way of doing it. So we get the rate at 0.25, and therefore the equation is 0.25 N. Correct? So that becomes the relation with the mass. The one answer which matches with ours is so these are the two with hundreds and 0.25 N. So A matches, right? So that is the answer. Now, it is not necessary to figure out 100, right? You could do the other way also, which could be lengthier. You could take any 2 points, find a slope, and then the equation. But this is definitely a better way, correct? So I hope you understand the concept. Now let's see how to do question number 10. Question number 10 is, a relationship is represented by the following graph. Which equation represents this relationship? So based on linear equations, we have many questions in EQAO, right? Now this is the fixed value, so 2 plus rate of change. So select a point, let's say this point, right? So what is the slope here? M is change in the Y value, which is 5 minus 2 divided by the change in X value, which this is 3 for us, right? So 3 minus 0. So 5 minus 2 is 3, and 3 minus 0 is also 3. So we get slope of 1. And therefore, the equation is the Y value C is equals to 2 plus N times 1, which is 2 plus N, right? So C equals to N plus 2 is your solution, which is option A for us. Is that clear to you? Perfect. So it's kind of simple if you look into the equation directly, right? It's a partial variation, y-intercept at 2, and slope is 1. Question number 11. A local band pays 5,000 to record its first album and 15 cents for each CD made. The band pays 7,000 to record its second album and 10 cents for each CD made. How will the graph of the relationship between the total cost and the number of CDs made for the second band differ from the graph of the first band? So, okay. And then we are given options. The graph of the line for the second album will start. We have a couple of options. So that is the second album. Fixed cost is 7,000, right? So let's first sketch the graph and then we'll discuss this. Okay, so let me do the graph on the left side, and then we'll look into the options and answer. So the first one, which is 5,000 and some rate, which is 15 cents. Let's say this is the first one, okay, which starts at 5,000. Okay. The second one in this case is starting higher, but the rate is lower. So it'll be kind of like this, starting at 7,000. Do you see, understand? That is the second one. Now, let's answer the question. We are given options which are the graph of the line for the second album. That means we are comparing with, this is our second album, will start lower? No, it starts higher, right? So it starts higher on the vertical axis and is steeper. No, it is not steeper. So option D is the correct option. Higher on the vertical axis and be less steep. Is that clear to you? So that is how you're going to answer this question. So I hope the concept is clear. Now question number 12 is an open response question. Let's take a break here. We'll continue with open response after a break. I hope you find this exercise interesting and useful. Feel free to write your comment, share your views, and if you like and subscribe to my videos, that'd be great. Thanks for watching and all the best. Begin with our open response. Here is question number 12. More snacks, please. Question here is, raisins and sunflower seeds are sold together in packages of 250 grams. The ratio of mass of raisin to mass of sunflower seeds is 3:5. Determine mass of raisins in a package. Show your work. Now remember, you are allowed the calculator, so we can use calculator to do the calculations. Let's understand the concepts. So we are talking about mass of two things mixed. One is raisins and the other thing is sunflower seeds. The ratio is given to us as 3:5, right? Now that really means that if we have total mass of 8 in a package, then out of 8, 3 grams will be raisins. If it is in grams, then 3 grams will be raisin and 5 grams will be sunflower seeds. You understand the concepts, right? So that is what the ratio really means. Now here, we are given a package of 250 grams. So if this is not 8, but it is 250 grams, in that case, we want to know what these quantities should be. We basically want to report how much is the raisins, right? This is the question for us. Now, how do you figure this out? What we can really do here is that we can find the ratio of resin to the total mass. So it is 3 out of 8, right? So one way could be to use ratios. So we know that 3 out of 8 is resins, right? We want to know how much, we don't know. So let x out of 250. This becomes the equation ratio, right? So let's say this is x, right? So we could treat this as a ratio that if we have a mass of 8 grams, then 3 is resins, 3 out of 8. We want to figure out how many out of 250, right? So that is one way of doing it. So to get the answer, we'll just cross multiply. So we get 3 out of 8 times 250 equals to x, correct? Let's use our calculator now. So we know 3 times 250, and we'll divide this by 8 to get the answer. And let's write it in decimals, 93.75. So we get 93.75 grams is the value for x. Is that clear to you? So we could actually use ratios to find this particular solution, right? That is how it should be done. So I hope the steps are absolutely clear, right? Let's move on and take question number 13. Getting fit. Maddie enrolls in a fitness program. Her total cost is made up of single sign-up fee and a cost per class. The table below shows information about her total cost C in dollars when she attends N classes. So that is N classes. If N is 12, total cost is $67. If N is 14, then the cost is $74. What is sign-up fee? You have to write and you have to show your work, right? Okay. So since we are given that this is linear relation, right? In that case, we can find the slope and the equation, correct? So we can say, using these 2 points, so points are like 12 and 67 is one point given to you. The other one is 1474, correct? The slope m will be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So it will be 74 minus 67 divided by 14 minus 12. Correct? Now use your calculator. So we have 74 minus 67 equals to 7 over 14 minus 12 is 2, right? So 7 divided by 2 will be in fractions 3.5. It is always better to use fractions. I'll recommend that. So don't go to decimals, right? So that is one. Now to find the equation, we could use one of these points and we can say, well, the total cost C should be equal to this slope m times n, the number of classes, plus we want to find this b, right? So from first point given to us, that is for 12 classes, the cost is 67. We can say 67 equals to, slope is 7 over 2, right? 7 over 2. N value is 12 for us, times 12 plus b, right? So that gives you 67 equals to, so you can simplify this. Cancelling 12 by 2, you get 6, right? So 6 times 7 is 42 plus b. Now from here, you can find the value of b as 67 minus 42 equals to b, right? So b will be equal to 7, take away 2 from it, you get 5, and from 6 we get 2. So 25. So sign-up fee is $25. So b for us is the sign-up fee, right? Fixed cost. So this fixed cost is the sign-up fee. In dollars, it is going to be $25. Is that clear to you, right? So that is how you're going to answer this question. Perfect. Now, we have more to it, and that is the relation between the number of classes many attempts and her total cost a partial variation or direct variation? So it is definitely a partial variation, right? Justify your answer. So justify your answer. We know that the cost C is basically equals to $25 plus 7 over 2 of number of classes. So it is partial because if n equals to 0, then C is not equal to 0, right? So C should be 0 for direct variation. Since it is not equal to 0, it is partial variation, right? So if you sketch this graph, your graph will be kind of like this, where the y-intercept is going to be $25, right? The cost in dollars. N. Well, this should be not a joint line. It should be integer values. You understand, right? So that is how we can explain this particular answer. So I hope the concepts are clear. Now let's take question number 14. Question number 14. Kenny's big adventure. The following graph represents the relationship between Kenny's distance from home on a bike ride and time. So that's the graph for you, showing the distance with time, right? The question here is, describe the 3 segments of Kenny's ride, include information about distance traveled, time, direction, and speed in kilometers per minute for each segment. So the table has been provided to give you the distance traveled, time, direction, and speed in kilometers per minute. Let us see how to solve such a question. So first you notice that distance is increasing, right? So the direction is always going away. So these are the 3 legs. Let's call the first one. The first one is during the interval from 0 to 10, right? This particular, let's talk about this. Now in this interval, we can calculate the speed as equals to distance divided by time, right? Distance divided by time. And in this case, we know that the distance covered is 3 kilometers and the time taken is 10 minutes. So you could write this as 0.3 kilometers per minute. Is that clear to you? So that is part A. Now let's do part B. In part B, what do we notice? We see this horizontal line. That means in this duration, which is from 10 to 25 minutes, right? The speed is 0, right? If you calculate the speed here, what do you get? Distance traveled is 0. Since it is only at 3 minus 3, however, the time is 25 minus 10, but speed is 0 kilometers per minute. That means not moving. So it is stationary, right? Stand still. So taking rest. That is how you could describe this particular portion, right? Not moving or resting. Now let's look into the third part, which is C for us. And let's say this is our third part, right? Now here we can find the distance, which is 4.5, take away 3, right? So in this case, speed is equal to 4.5 take away 3, so that is the distance, difference between the y values, right, divided by 50 take away 25. Correct? So we get 1.5 divided by 25, right? Quarter. So let's use calculator. We get 1.5 divided by 25 equals to 3 over 50. Okay, in decimals, 0.06, which is 0.06 kilometers per minute. So So in the first leg, it is very steep and much faster. Here resting and then moving forward but at a lower speed. Okay, is that clear to you? So that is how we could actually explain the given situation. Right? Now let's fill up these values in the table given to us. Describe the three segments of Kenny's ride. Include information about distance traveled, time, direction, and speed in kilometers per minute for each segment. So segment A. Distance traveled during this is 3 kilometers. Time taken here is 10 minutes. Direction is forward, away. You can say forward or you can say away, moving away. Speed in kilometers per hour is 0.3 kilometers per minute, right? So that is the speed in this case. Perfect. In B, we found that distance traveled was 0 kilometer. It didn't move at all. Time taken will be 15 minutes. So it is 15 minutes of rest. Direction, none. And the speed is 0 kilometers per minute. And in the third case, part C, it is the speed, distance traveled. Distance traveled was from 3 to 4.5, so distance traveled 1.5 kilometers. Time taken was 25 minutes. Direction was forward or away, right? Moving away. And the speed calculated was 0.06 kilometers per minute. Is that clear to you, right? So that is how we are going to answer such questions. I hope the concept is absolutely clear. I'd like you to go through this video, this portion of the video once again and understand all these concepts. So from the graph, the steepness gives us the speed which we find by rise over run, right? So that slope is the speed. So Kenny actually describe the three segments. So this is much faster, right? So you could describe kind of like this. So in the first 10 minutes, so we can say Kenny's speed was 0.3 kilometers per minute in the first 10 minutes, right? Then took rest for 25 minutes and moved forward at slower pace of 0.6 kilometers per minute. So that is how you could actually describe the given situations, right? I hope that helps. Let's move on and take question number 15 now. Here is question number 15. Comparing relationships. Information about three linear relationships is given below. Relationship 1 is a graph, relationship 2 is an equation, and 3 is data in the form of a table. The question here is, circle the relationships that have the same rate of change. So the rate of change is slope, right? So that means they have the same slope. Justify your answer. Include information about all three relationships, right? That's your question. Let us see how to solve this. So basically, we need to find the slope for all the three cases. And you'll also now learn how to find slope when a line is given to you. Well, slope in this particular case can be found by these 2 points, right? We can call this point A as minus 10, y value 0. And here point B, which is at 0, the y value is 5. Slope is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, correct? So y2 is 5 for you. So 5 minus 0, right, sorry, y value is 0, divided by 0 minus 10. Or it could be written as 5 over 10, which is equal to half. So the slope in this case is half. Now let's see what is the slope in the second case. Let us rearrange this equation, right? So we need to rearrange in the form y equals to mx plus b, so we can read the slope, correct? So we get 6y equals to minus 3x minus 1. Y equals to minus 3 over 6x minus 1 over 6, which is minus half x minus 1 over 6. So in this case, the slope is equal to minus half. It is not the same, right? In the first case, it was plus half. Now let's find the slope when the table of values is given to us. So let's find this difference. This difference is what? Divided by that difference. You get the idea, right? So we could write minus 2 minus of minus 3 divided by 0 minus of minus 2. So that becomes the slope in this case, right? So that is minus 2 plus 3 divided by 2, or it is equal to half. So clearly you can see that the slope of first relation and the last relation are exactly same. So we can circle these two relations. They have the same slope, and the slope m is equal to half for both the cases. Is that clear to you, right? So we need to circle the relationships that have the same rate of change, which is the slope, and justify your answer, include information about all three relationships. So this is not the same since it is negative half, but the other two have the slope of positive half and they are exactly same. Perfect. So this rise over run is like 5 over 10, which gives you positive half. So I hope that makes sense. Let's take the next question now. Question number 16. Determine the equation of a line that has the same y-intercept as 2x plus y plus 6 equals to 0 and is perpendicular to the line shown on the grid. Okay, so let's find the y-intercept of the given line, right? So when I say y-intercept, it means what? Y-intercept means x value 0. So to find the y-intercept, we'll substitute x as 0. So we get 2 times 0 plus y plus 6 equals to 0. That is 0, right? Plus y plus 6 equals to 0, or y equals to minus 6. So we get the y-intercept as minus 6, right? Now the second part of this is, and is perpendicular to the shown line. So perpendicular means negative reciprocal, right? So first, let's find the slope m of the line, right, given to us. So we can take 2 points, and these two intercepts are actually good points. So here you can see that the rise is of 4, right? And this run is of 6 units. It makes sense. It is rising. It has to be positive 2 over 3, right? Now, what is the slope of perpendicular line? Negative reciprocal, right? So perpendicular line slope will be equal to, let me write like this, m perpendicular will be negative 3 over 2. Perfect. So we get our equation from these two conditions. So we can now write down that equation of line which has slope same as minus 3 over 2 and which goes through the point which is the y-intercept 0 minus 6 is what? Is basically equal to y equals to minus 3 over 2x, and that is your y-intercept, right? Minus 6. So you get your equation. Do you see that? Now, since we were given equation in the standard form, let's rewrite this equation also in standard form, right? So that extra bit actually is very helpful. We'll multiply everything by 2. So we get 2y equals to minus 3x minus 12 times 2, right? So now we can bring this term to the left side. So we get 3x plus 2y plus 12 equals to 0. So that becomes the equation of your line. You see, 3x plus 2y plus 12 equals to 0 becomes the equation of the required line. So that's our answer. Is that clear? So that is how you should be solving it. I hope you find it interesting and useful. Now, let's move on and take question number 17. Question number 17, skate on. A diagram of a community ice rink is shown below. The rink is being enclosed with fencing that costs $6.20 per meter. Determine the total cost of fencing for the rink. Show your work. So that is your rink, right? So we have a rectangle here and a semicircle. So we need to find the cost of fencing. That means we want to calculate the perimeter, right? So basically we need to calculate perimeter. So let me show my work here. So the perimeter could be treated as this length, right? Plus this length, plus this length, and this semicircle. Now, how do we find that length? Well, from this figure, it is very clear that the circle radius should be half of 26, right? So this is 26 divided by 2 or 13. So these sides are equal to 13 each. That is to say that this radius is 13 meters. Is that clear to you? Perfect. That is to say that this much side is 13 meters from here to here. So how much is from, or the length of this rectangular part? Well, the length of this rectangular part should be 61 minus 13. Is that clear? And these two are equal. So this is also 61 minus 13. Right? So when you take away from 11, 3, you get 8, and then 5 minus 1 is 4. So you get 48. So when you want to find the perimeter, in that case, this is half of the circle, right? So the perimeter will include half of the circle with radius r. So we have a semicircle, right? We have this semicircle, correct? So that D shape will be, basically it is 2 pi r. So it is 2 pi r, or you can say pi diameter, right? So divided by 2, right? So it is basically pi times r, right? Half of this circle. So which is equal to pi times 13. So 13 pi you could write. It is better to write 13 pi. Normally we can say circle perimeter or circumference is pi d, right? Pi times diameter. In this case, it is half circle, right? So half circle perimeter equals to pi d divided by 2. You could do like this also, right? So pi diameter for us is 26. You could do 26 divided by 2 and you get 13 pi. So same thing. Do you see that? That's an alternate way of doing it, correct? So now we can say what is our total perimeter, right? So from here we can write perimeter is how much? So perimeter is half circle plus 3 sides of rectangle, correct? So in this case, half circle we calculate as 13 pi plus the 3 sides are 48 plus 48. These two are equal plus 26. Is that clear to you? So that becomes our total perimeter. So let's add them up, right? So let's use calculator. So we have 48 plus 48 plus 26 plus 13 pi. So 13 times pi, right? which is equal to, in decimals, it gives us 162.84. Pi is 3.14, right? So that is the meters, that is in meters. But we need to find the rink is being enclosed with a fencing that costs $6.20. So cost of fencing should be how much? Total perimeter, which is 162.84, we have to multiply this by 6.20, right? Dollars per meter, right? So we get so many dollars as the cost. So we are going to multiply this by 6.20. And what we get here is equal to 1009.61, right? It shows 612. But we are going to round our answers to cents, right? So we'll round our answers to cents, and we can say that this cost is $1,009.60, right? Since these days we have discontinued the pennies, right? So we'll write this as 60 cents, rounding off to the nearest number like this, since we have discontinued the pennies, right? You could also write approximately as 1009.61. That is also correct. This is also correct, okay? So that is how you could actually answer this question. I hope it makes sense. Perfect. Now let's move on and take question number 18. Now this is the last question of open response, question number 18. A schoolyard. A schoolyard is in the shape of a regular decagon. Decagon means 10-sided figure, right? Ten-sided polygon, as pictured below. Regular means all are of equal length. All angles will also be equal, right? That means regular. Complete the chart below with the values of x and y. Justify your answer using geometric properties. So we need to find what is x and what is y. Perfect. Okay, now let's begin by finding y first. Since we have 10 sides, in that case, sum of angles, sum of interior angles will be how much? Sum of interior angles will be 180 times n minus 2. That's your formula, right? So it is 180 times 10 minus 2, or 180 times 8. So that is your sum. All right. So let's multiply. We get 180 times 8 as our sum, 1440, right? This is total sum, right? Now how much is y? All are equal angles, right? Regular means equal angles. Since it is a regular polygon, right? So therefore, y should be equal to how much? We have to divide 1440 by 10 and we get 144 degrees. So the value of y should be 144 degrees. We got y now. Perfect. Now y basically means here we have the angle y, which is 144. Does make sense to you? Right? Now at this point, let us look into the other angles. What is this angle for us? Let's say this angle is theta. So the angle theta is equal to 180 degrees minus 144. Correct? So let's do it. So we have 180 minus 144, which is equal to 36 degrees. So this is linear, right? A line makes 180 degrees and therefore it should be 36 degrees. Now, what is the angle x which we need to find? Angle x should be 180 degrees minus 90, which is given to us, minus what we found theta as 36 degrees, right? Since sum of angles is 180, right? So let's calculate this. This is because of sum of angles is 180 degrees in a triangle. So let's calculate this answer now. So we get 180 minus 90 minus 36 degrees, and that gives us 54 degrees. So x is 54 degrees, correct? Now we'll write down our answer. The value of x is 54 degrees and the value of y is 144 degrees, right? Justification is right there, right? So with this, we come to an end of open response questions. I hope you have understood the steps and the concepts behind. We have already solved the open response questions. Now here are a few more multiple choice. Question number 19. Which equation does not represent a linear relation? So clearly, if you have x squared, it does not represent linear relation, right? All others are straight lines. Question 20. What is the slope of the line represented by the equation 0 equals to 2x minus 10y plus 7? We need to rearrange this, bringing 10y to the left side. It becomes positive 2x plus 7. And dividing by 10, we get 2 over 10x plus 7 over 10. Simplify, we get 1 over 5x plus 7 over 10. So slope is 1 over 5, which is option B for us. Clear? Now let's take the next question, which is question number 21. Question number 21 here is, the endpoints of a line segment AB are, let's say this is the line segment, right? So we are given the endpoints as A, which is 3 minus 12, and B, which is 6k. What is the value of k if the slope of the line segment is minus 2? So we are given slope m between A to B equals to minus 2. But slope is, as you know, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we can write minus 2 as equal to k minus 12, so it becomes plus 12, divided by 6 minus 3. Or we get minus 2 equals to k plus 12 over 6 minus 3 is 3. And now we can solve it by cross multiplication, right? So we'll cross multiply. So we get minus 6 equals to k plus 12, and that gives you the value of k as equal to minus 6 minus 12, which is clearly minus 18. And therefore, option A is the right option. Clear? Now let's look into question number 22D. Information about 3 different relationships between C in dollars and T in hours is shown below. So these are the 3 relationships. So first one is given in the form of a table. The second one is in the form of a graph. Then we have an equation, right? C equals to 4 plus 0.5 T. The question for you is, based on all this, is how many of 3 relationships between C and T have a rate of change of $4 per hour, right? So we have to see the rate of change is 4 or not, right? Okay, so let's figure out. So rate of change, let's try to calculate for each one of them. So for the first one, the rate of change is what? Let's say rate of change, which is normally called as slope, will be difference of these two, let's say 14 minus 10 divided by 2 minus 0, or it is 4 over 2. Is 4 divided by 2 is 2, right? So the units, of course, this rate of change is in dollars, right? The y value, and the x value is in hours. So we get $2 per hour, right? So that is definitely not 4, right? Now let's look into rate of change given by the graph. Now in this graph, let's select 2 points, okay? So this is a good point. Let's take the other point right there. So the coordinates of these points are, here the coordinates is 2, 6, right? 2 and 6. Here the coordinates are 0 and 4. So let's find rate of change m, which is difference of y values, 6 minus 4 divided by 2 minus 0. 6 minus 4 is 2, divided by 2 is basically 1, right? This is also not 4. Perfect. Now the last is the equation itself, which is c equals to 0.5. Here the slope is 0.5, or you can say half. It is also not $4, and therefore our option will be option A. That is, none of them has a slope of $4 per hour. Is that clear? Perfect. Let's move on and take the next question now. Question number 23. A line passes through the point 6, 4 and has slope of negative half. That means it is going downwards, right? That is negative half. Which of the following graph represents this line? Well, this is definitely not the line, and nor is this one. We have to check between C and D, right? So we need to check between C and D. So both have going downwards, and let's check the point 6, 4. So this point at 6, the value is not 4. It is here in this case 6, 5, and it is not 4. And in the second graph which we have, which is D, at 6, what is the value of y? So, well, at 6, we do have 4. So this is the point 6, 4, and it's going downwards. So therefore, that becomes our option. Is that clear to you, right? We need not even calculate for the slope, as this is the only line which satisfies the point at least. Perfect. Next question here, question number 24. The maximum number of tickets that can be sold for the school play is 350. The total profit earned, P, can be determined using the equation P equals to 4.50n minus 1080, where n is the total number of tickets sold. Which of the following statements is true? First, the maximum profit is 1020. Well, that is not the case, right? The maximum profit cannot be 1020. This is a negative value, by the way. So for finding the profit, what we can do is we can just plug in 350 and calculate, correct? So let's find the profit when n equals to 350. In that case, what is P equals to? P will be 4.5 times 350 minus 1080. Let's use calculator. So we have 4.5 times 350, and from here we'll take away 1080. That gives you 495, right? So we get this value as 495. Definitely, we cannot get 1080. Second is, maximum profit is 1575. Well, this is a straight line. Do you understand? So profit is increasing by the sales, and that is the maximum profit. So both the statements are wrong. C, total profit is 0 when 240 tickets are sold. So let's check the value for n equals to 240, correct? In that case, P will be 4.5 times 240 minus 1080. Let's see how much do we get now. So we have 4.5 times 240 minus 1080 equals to what? We do get 0. So that is correct. So we do get 0 here. So this C is the right option. Perfect. So that is how we could actually solve it. Now let's look into question number 25. Two gyms offer fitness classes. The graph below shows the total cost for the first gym, right? For 4 classes, both gyms have the same total cost. So we are saying that 4 classes means they have the same cost. Okay, so the cost is 120 for 4 classes. Now, which of the following could represent the total cost for the second gym? Okay, so we have 4 options here. Since we know that this point should be there on the equation, right? So first one is c equals to 40 plus 60 plus 4n. So if I write n as 4, this is n as 4, what do I get? I get 60 plus 4 times 4, which is 16, right? 60 plus 16, which is definitely not 120, right? Which is 76. So this is wrong. In the second case, it is 40 plus 15 times 4, so which is 40 plus 15 times 4 is 60. That gives you 100. But we are looking for a value of 120, so that is not correct either. Now, we have the total cost is made up of a membership fee of 60 and $10 per class. Well, this is 60 indeed, so that could be right. And for $10 per class, let's find the rate of change. So if you consider this triangle, then this height here is 120 minus 60 divided by 4, right? Which is 60 divided by 4. And that gives you 4 times 1 is 4 and 20 means 15. So it is 15, not 40, not 10, right? So that is also not correct. The last option here is the total cost is made up of a membership fee of 40 and $20 per class. In this particular case, membership fee of $60 and $10 per class. In that case, we could have an equation which is C equals to 60 plus 10n, right? So if n is 4, then what do we get? We get 60 plus 40, which is 100. So that doesn't work. In the last case, let's calculate once again. Total cost is made up of membership fee of $40, okay, 40, plus 20 per class. So 20 times 4. And that gives you 40 plus 80, and that is equal to 120. So that works. So D is the right option. Correct? So we get D as the right option. So here is question number 26. The table below lists the widths of 4 rectangles, each with an area of 72 centimeters square. So widths of rectangle 1, 2, 3, 4 are 6, 8, 10, and 18. The question is, which rectangle has smallest perimeter? Well, squarish rectangle will have smallest area, smallest perimeter, right? So in this case, if you check the values, what we find here is squarish means width and length are close by, right? So close length and width. So if you see, area is 72. So for the first rectangle, it will be 6 times 12, right? 6 times 12 will give us 72, correct? In the second case, 8 times 9 is going to give us 72. In the third case, 7.2 times 10 will give us 72. And 18 is like 6 times 3, right? So times 4 will give us 72, correct? Now in this particular case, you clearly see that rectangle 2 is squarish, kind of. Length and width are nearly same, not as far apart as in the other cases, and therefore that is going to be our answer. What you could do is, you could verify your result. How will you verify? Just add 8 and 9 and multiply by 2 to find the perimeter. You will see that this perimeter is smallest. So in this case, the perimeter is going to be 8 plus 9 times 2, right? So which is 17 times 2, 34. If you take perimeter of any other, it will be much greater. Perfect. So that is very important to understand. So I hope this concept is clear, right? It's a very important concept. Now let's look into question number 27, which is Salt is sold in packages in the shape of a rectangular based prism that is not a cube. A new package in the shape of a cube is designed to contain the same volume, right? So it's designed to contain the same volume. Which of the following is true about the new package? So the four options now are: it holds less salt, it holds more salt. Well, the volume is same, so both of them are wrong. C, it requires less material. That is correct. From the same concept as we did in previous question, right? So if you make it squarish, in this case it is a cube, so it will have minimum material. That is important, and that's why most of the things you see are in the shape of a cube, where material is of concern. Now let's look into the next question, which is 28. According to the Pythagorean theorem, what is the length of the third side of the triangle? So we need to find x. Well, this is a smaller side, so x will be equal to 15. I should write 17 square first, right? So 17 square minus 15 square root, correct? So that is how you're going to find the answer. So we have 17 square minus 15 square, and we get 64, and square root of 64 will be 8, right? So we get 8 as our answer. Option D is the correct option, right? So this is 64. Question number 29. The figure pictured below is made up of a cone on the top of a cylinder. The cylinder has a volume of 96 cubic centimeters. So this volume is 96 centimeter cube. What is the volume of the whole figure? Well, that should be 1/3 of 96, correct? So we can add them up and get the whole volume, correct? So let's add them up. So we'll add them to get, since the volume of a cone is 1/3 that of the cylinder. So it's important to note here, volume of cone with same radius and height is 1/3 of that of cylinder. Is that clear to you? Right? So that is what it is. So 1/3 will be what? So 1/3 will be 32. So it will be 96 plus 32 as our answer. 6 and 2 is 8. 3 and 9 is 12. So 128 centimeter cube is going to be the answer, right? So we'll mark 128 as the correct answer. Is that clear to you? So I'd like you to understand this concept. So volume of a cone of same dimensions in a way, radius and height, is 1/3 that of the volume of a cylinder, and that should help you to get the right answer, right? So out of these options, you don't really have to do much calculations, right? You get your answer, just as we did. Perfect. So let's move on, and these are the last two questions for us. Question number 30. It says, consider the diagram below. So these two sides are given to us as parallel. What is the value of x? Okay, so since these two sides are parallel, then 61 is equal to which side? Think like this. So that's a transverse. 61 is this. So this is 61. So x has to be equal to 180 degrees minus 61. That's it, right? So we get 9, and from here we get 1. And so we get 119 as our right answer. So the answer here is 119 degrees. The last question here is, the following figure is a 15-sided regular polygon. What is the value of x? This exterior angle we want to figure out, right? What is the value of x as shown in the figure? Well, since there are 15 sides, we can find this angle. Let's find this angle. Well, total sum of interior angles is how much? Is 180 degrees times n minus 2, right? In this case, 15 sides. So that means 180 degrees minus, 15 minus 2, which is 13, gives us, let's calculate, 180 times 13, right? So that gives us equal to 2340 degrees. Now, since there are, let's call this as y, right? So the value of y will be equal to 2340 divided by 15. So we'll divide this by 15, and that gives us 156. So this y is 156. So that is a straight line. So x is 180 minus 156 in degrees, correct? So we'll do 180 minus 156 to get our answer, which is equal to 24 degrees, correct? So option A in this case is the right option, which is 24 degrees. So I hope you understand the calculations. So with that, we complete our test paper. I hope you find it interesting and useful. Feel free to write a comment, share your views, and if you like and subscribe to my videos, that'd be great. If you have any doubts, you can always send me an email on the given address here. I'll be responding within 48 hours to your email. Thanks for watching and all the best.